Okay, we're going to get started. All my colleagues are up here. Only missing one. Okay, the board, welcome to everybody to Elk Grove Unified School District Board of Education meeting tonight. The board did meet in closed session and no action was taken. Today's meeting is being video recorded and will be available on the district YouTube channel. The blue cards are available to the table outside to my right if anyone wishes to address the board. And if you want to address the board, if you wish, we complete the card and hand it to the staff member to my right. Be sure you what you want to indicate, the matters you wish to address. Tonight we have the Pledge of Allegiance, Cosumnes River Elementary. I want to call on Michelle and Ryan Myers, and will be assisted by Mr. Forcina. And Principal Ms. Carruthers can come up as well.
Good evening. Cosumnes River Elementary School is honored to recognize Ryan and Michelle Myers as our education partner. Both Ryan and Michelle teach here in the Elk Grove Unified School District, Ryan at Pleasant Grove High School and Michelle at Cosumnes River. In addition to being outstanding educators, the pair have coached basketball, softball, soccer, cross country, track, and swimming. Their three beautiful daughters, Allison, is she the oldest? Kate and Sarah are straight-A students, amazing athletes, and models of citizenship. Each of these three girls contribute positively to their school campuses. Allison is at Catherine Albiani Middle School, and Kate and Sarah at Cosumnes River. When the girls were just beginning their educational careers, Michelle volunteered in their classrooms while teaching preschool and providing child care in the community. Since she began teaching at Cosumnes River in 2014, she has served on the PTA Executive Board, coordinated the Basketball League, and co-chaired the National Elementary Honor Society along with the school's Kiwanis Kids Club. In the community, Michelle has served on the Little League Board and is a Brownie troop leader. We are incredibly fortunate and proud to have the partnership of the Myers family as they understand that family and community engagement is a fundamental component to student success. Cosumnes River Elementary and the families of Rancho Murrieta and Slough House thank Ryan, Michelle, Allison, Kate, and Sarah Myers for their service to the community. So we are ready for our pledge. Thank you.
Please stand and remove the caps.
Please stand. Salute. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Want to hold on a second? Thank you once again. We're giving a nice round of applause. Now we have our high school representatives reports. I'll call on William Daylor High School.
Good evening, President Chet Madison Sr., members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. My name is Kenesha James, a 2019 graduate.
And I am Adriel Portella, a senior.
We are participating tonight on behalf of William Daylor High School, home of the Daylor Owls. It is our privilege tonight to share with you what has been going on our campus this year. William Daylor has been and continues to be that special place for students who, for whatever reason, needs an alternative setting. Facing life challenges, students graduate because of this unique program that Daylor provides. When students enroll at Daylor, they receive a quality program of instruction reflecting the Common Core academic standards leading to a high school diploma. Smaller classes for individualized instruction, a variety of options that include open entry and open exit into the school and classes, alternative options to earn elective credits, and work-study options, a competent and caring staff who skillfully and patiently addresses issues confronting students, counseling and college career guidance, opportunities to participate in workshops around life skills, forming healthy relationships, healthy living, sensation, and anger management, a child development center, and supports for pregnant and parenting students.
Our classes challenge us in English, math, history, government, science, and a variety of electives. In our science class, we study karyotyping to take pictures of chromosomal disorders and make determinations if it's male, female. Our art class helps us to stretch ourselves to see what we can accomplish. In English and social sciences, we create and incorporate thesis statements, form arguments based on investigation, and write essays supporting a claim formed after evaluating multiple sources. Again, this year, Daylor participated in the Sacramento County Office of Education Academic Bowl. Our task was to create a housing unit for the homeless and to provide resources. We've given you a picture of the display we built. Daylor received second place. Sometimes we follow an assembly schedule in order to have guest speakers, complete digital citizenship lessons, and attend lectures on the dangers of drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. While the staff at Daylor works hard to keep us focused on our goal of preparing for graduation, they also guide us into thinking about our future. Throughout the year, we have presentations to prepare us for life after high school. The Pathways to Success program provides workshops for our parents to guide them through the process of helping us prepare for college or careers. This year, Daylor sponsored a lunchtime series presented by Cosumnes Rivers College and Sac City College. So far this year, we have attended presentations on college and career programs, filling out FAFSA, application workshops, and financial aid options. This year, College and Career Day was on March 14th. Representatives from the state and local departments, CRC, SCC, trade schools, business and programs visit our campus to talk about what their organizations have to offer our students. Daylor students continue to utilize the College and Career Center, which is dedicated to helping students through the college search and admissions process, as well as helping students search for jobs, create and update resumes, and apply for employment.
Because we work so hard in our studies, many of us take advantage in a Daylor snack shack. To replenish our energy by purchasing a snack, proceeds from the sales help offset the cost of student recognition, student incentives, and student activities like prom. Leadership students are busy throughout the year planning activities and events for our campus. The first semester, leadership seniors kicked off the school year with a senior sunrise, during which The seniors watched the sunrise while the staff served a breakfast burrito bar. In fall, leadership honored students with the Off to the Good Start lunch, and they also sponsored Spirit Week, which included Pajama Day, Crazy Hair Day, Mismatched Clothes Day, and Red Ribbon Week, where students pledged to be drug-free. Once a month, PBIS team sponsors a Friday recognition lunch and activities. It is so much fun watching the staff compete in the Just Dance game competition. First semester also provided opportunities for parents' involvement. At back-to-school night, parents and siblings of Daylor students join the staff for dinner, where they are able to get to know the staff in a social setting. Parents also heard about the different curriculums, student expectations, and events in the upcoming school year. Back-to-school night is never complete without presenting achievement awards. Our basketball team is again participating in the Alternative Ed Basketball League. Our team and will be in the playoffs. Go Daylor Owls. Student leadership class is busy working on the upcoming prom scheduled for April 5th. The production of the yearbook, student recognition, and sponsoring a school-wide anti-tobacco campaign.
Students are excited about two very successful career technical education programs offered at Daylor. The first is the Careers with Children CTE class, which continues to expand each year. This class prepares students for the field of early childhood education through curriculum-based lessons, sites visits, field trips, and hands-on child care. The goal of the class is to prepare students for entry-level positions in early childhood education and other related fields. The Careers with Children's students will be visiting the Sacramento Crisis Nursery and the CRC Child Development Center, as well as other local resources. Some students have also started internships with local child development centers. Upon completion of the course, students will receive 3 early childhood education college credits to continue this field at CRC. The second CTE pathway we offer at Daylor is Building Trades Pathway. This pathway prepares students to enter the field of construction. Students earn 3 college credits and can transition to CRC or, through industry partnerships, move into internships. Last summer, 5 of our students participated in the summer internships with possibility of employment upon graduation. The CTE Construction Technology class has participated in the Sacramento Builders Exchange Design Build Shed competition for the last 5 years, earning first and second place awards, the Team Building Award, the Safety Award, and last year they earned the Best in Show Award and the Building Design Award. This year they will participate again. Thank you very much for your time and for allowing us to tell you about our school. We would like to invite you to our campus for a visit. Go Daylor Owls!
Thank you. Monterey Trail High School.
Good evening, Board President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. My name is Javen Anka,
And I'm Tamar Ali.
and
We are members of the senior class from Monterey Trail High School. Go Mustangs! Starting off with academics, on February 1st, we held our second Renaissance of the year. Students received rewards for achieving an increase in their GPA. Next, we hosted our Spring Awards Night last night, where students are presented with awards honoring them for their hard work and great grades. Lastly, Sacramento's Congressman Ami Berra visited the campus to recognize our fellow Mustang Ryan Lee, who won the Congressional App Challenge. Both Ryan and Congressman Berra were featured in Good Day Sacramento. After his appearance on Good Day, Congressman Berra visited an AP government class to talk about what it's like to be a politician. He discussed his struggles and his accomplishments through his political journey. To wrap up our academics, we held our History Night on February 20th, where our juniors present their outstanding projects regarding this year's theme, triumphs and tragedy. All students displayed their learning by presenting a poster board, websites, and even skits.
Now onto our Unity events. We hosted our third annual open house showcase on January 7th. Our showcase is like a traditional open house, but so much better. We want our event to not only highlight all of our great academic, art, and athletic programs, but all of those of our feeder schools. This year, we were honored to host Raymond Case Choir, who sang with our choir ensemble, as well as we also hosted the Iron B West Violin Troupe and the Edward Harris boys and girls basketball teams. There is a great amount of talent on the trail, which is a great time to be a Mustang. On 24th of January, Mustangs and Colts joined together for Shadow Day. On Shadow Day, the 8th graders were led by the juniors and seniors to get a little sneak peek of high school. They ate lunch with us and even got a little taste of the 10-minute passing periods. It was a crazy, hectic day. On the 14th of February, ASB held the annual multicultural event that celebrated the diversity in our community with performances from Impulse Dance Company, Black Student Union, Poly Club, and the many other clubs we have on the trail. When your school has 41 languages, your multicultural celebration is unbelievable. Lean Crew hosted their second Unity Day event of the year on the February 21st. Over 100 students participated in activities to get to know one another and learn the real stories of their diverse classmates they see on campus. Our Black Student Union held the second annual Black History Month extravaganza on February 28th. Thank you to Superintendent Hoffman and the other board members that were able to attend. During our celebration of Black excellence, guests were treated to amazing performances, community vendors, and a delicious dinner from Burgess Brothers Barbecue. In addition, our BSU performed at the Crocker Art Museum and was featured on Good Day Sacramento, where they performed their step routine.
Up next, we are hosting our Blacklight Rally on April 12th. Our Astroworld theme rally should be out of this world with phenomenal decorations related to the famous artist Travis Scott. That following evening, we will be hosting our first ever Blacklight dance, also being an Astroworld themed. Coming up on March 23rd, the juniors are having their prom, where they will enjoy the time with their class, have some nice hors d'oeuvres, and all in all dance till their heart's content. For the seniors, on March 30th, we will be having our senior trip to Six Flags. Moving on to arts and athletics, earlier this month, our incredible Impulse Dance Company held their 14th annual main stage performance held at Sheldon High School. They presented a vast array of dances and had special guests from Pleasant Grove, Franklin, and our own Poly Club. We're glad to have such an amazing and hardworking dance company on the trail. Our amazing band hosted the spring concert on March 7th. Since then, they have had the opportunity to play with the University of Nevada Wind Ensemble and compete in the Golden Empire Music Festival at Sac State, where both our concert band and our symphonic band received the highest score of Superior.
Onto athletics, congratulations to our wrestling team this year. They won their first wrestling league championship in school history. Let's go Mustangs. Also, both our boys and girls basketball teams made it to the section playoffs, and the girls made it to NorCal tournament, winning a game before falling to the top speed. We are now into our busy spring season with baseball, softball, track, swimming, and men's volleyball. Golf and tennis are enjoying the nice weather as they start league play. This weekend, we are hosting the Macros Track and Field Invitational. There will be over 25 schools from all over the state competing on Saturday. Our track teams have some of the fastest times in the state, and we are excited to compete against the best.
Each day on the trail, students exemplify our core values of community, respect, confidence, and integrity. Thank you for inviting us to these past 3 board meetings. It has been a pleasure to represent Monterey Trail High School. Next year, I plan on attending UC Davis as an anthropology major.
And I will be attending San Jose State University as a justice studies major. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go Mustangs.
Very good. Good report. Franklin High School.
Good evening, President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. My name is Matthew Jamamoy.
And I'm Ashley Rehal.
We are so excited to share the amazing developments within the Wildcat Nation during these first 3 months of 2019.
Beginning with academics, Franklin completed its evaluation by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges last week. On Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of last week, WASC evaluators interacted with students and teachers, experienced our welcoming school spirit, and saw our expected school learning standards in action, exemplified through pride, preparation, respect, integrity, determination, and empathy. We can't wait to see what accreditation they award Franklin. Hopefully another 6-year accreditation.
Excitement is in the air around campus with the peak of college admission season right around the corner. Seniors are compulsively checking college portals and are excitedly discussing college plans that are crazily just within a few months. The class of 2019 is also eagerly anticipating the senior events, including senior ball, the trip to Disneyland, the picnic at Sunsplash, and of course, graduation on Friday, May 31st at Golden One Center.
As a part of this end-of-the-year fervor is coming is AP tests. Students are starting to sign up and study for the long trek ahead to AP examination season. At Franklin, students have been offered 25 different exams with accompanying classes and some self-studying exams offered by the College Board.
Yesterday was the first day of quarter 4. Franklin Wildcats have been working extremely hard these past 3 quarters and will maintain their determination in the last 9 weeks of the school year.
Moving on to student unity, Franklin held its last homecoming of the school year, planned by our amazing Link crew, on January 26th, with the theme A Night on Broadway. The seniors were Wicked, juniors Legally Blonde, sophomores Grease, and freshmen Aladdin. The dance was a huge success with over 1,000 students in attendance. Link crew spent weeks preparing for the amazing event filled with music, fun, and free popcorn.
On January 31st, Franklin held its annual Prom Expo. Various boutiques and salons came to Franklin High School to prepare a few of our students to walk down the runway modeling the newest trends in prom dresses and tuxedos. The event was a huge success.
In the first 3 months of the year, Franklin's Visual and Performing Arts Department has been busy sharing their talent with the community through multiple events. Fusion, our acclaimed dance team, hosted their main stage show, Mission Impossible, on February 1st and 2nd at the Cosumnes Oaks Performing Arts Center. Fusion dancers brought a new take to the contemporary favorite, filled with hip-hop beats and exciting interpretive dances.
Polly and Haka, a completely student-run club, practiced vigorously over various evenings the last few months to present their Polly Night, drawing a large crowd with engaging performances of traditional Polynesian dances and chants. Franklin's Vocal Ensemble and Vocal Women, directed by Miss Colleen Hogue, share their talent at Music for the Soul, a joint concert with Cosumnes Oaks on March 7th, performing spiritual pieces designed to lift the spirit and bring some wonderful harmonic unity to the sometimes heated rivalry down Whitelock Parkway.
Also, on March 7th, Franklin held its annual blood drive with Blood Source, bringing in hundreds of pints of blood, an amazing feat with over 300 participants. We are proud to be able to save the lives of people well beyond the borders of our community.
Just this last weekend, our juniors danced the night away at junior prom at a unique venue, the California Automotive Museum, quaintly fitting the nostalgic theme of Trip Down Memory Lane. The junior class officers worked extremely hard to put on an amazing night for their class filled with wonderful new memories. Our talented theater program is currently preparing for their spring musical Pajama Game. The show opens up this Friday with shows on March 22nd, 23rd, 28th, 29th, and 30th. We invite you to come watch our amazing students put on the show.
Moving on to athletics. Winter sports has wrapped up and spring sports are well underway. Both of our boys and girls basketball teams worked hard this past season and played well in playoffs. Both teams advanced to the second round of the Division I playoffs. Our women's soccer team also made playoffs and advanced to the second round. On February 2nd, both men's and women's varsity wrestling teams competed in the Delta League Wrestling Championship. Later that month, on February 21st, the teams traveled to Bakersfield for the Wrestling State Championships, where we had 3 Wildcat wrestlers qualify for the state meet. One of our wrestlers, Malik Lewis, placed in the top 8 in the state, a huge accomplishment.
In spring sports, our teams are preparing for the start of Delta League play. Our softball, men's volleyball, swimming, men's golf, track and field, men's tennis, and baseball teams all are eager to excel this season and represent our Wildcat pride.
President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos, thank you so much for your time and consideration this evening. As Matthew and I are both seniors, this is our last presentation here, and we are honored to have had the privilege of sharing the Wildcat spirit with all of you. I am planning to attend UC Berkeley in the fall to major in molecular biology to pursue a career in science.
I have committed to Stanford University majoring in urban studies, intending to pursue a career in civil service and secondary education.
We are excited to soon hear about the new student board commissioners who have just been interviewed for the next school year.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and we cannot wait to see you all at our graduation ceremony.
Thank you so much. Good report. Thank you. I'd like to recognize the principals of these schools, Catherine Whiteside at William Daylor High School, Chantel Albiani at Franklin High School, and Eric Swanson at Monterey Trail High School. And your students, you may be excused to finish up your homework for the graduation. Okay, I'd like to call on Anna Trinnell on Public Schools Month resolution.
Good evening, Board President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. The month of April has been designated Public Schools Month by the state of California. During the 1920s, the Free and Accepted Masons of California initiated the annual recognition of the role that public schools play in our communities. We honor this advocacy by providing opportunities for our schools to be open to parents in the community multiple times in the year to see the excellent work taking place. With this in mind, I ask that you adopt the resolution designating April 2019 as Public Schools Month.
So moved.
It's been moved in second to approve the resolution of number 52 that proclaims April 2019 as Public Schools Month in Elk Grove. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Craig Murray, if you come up. National School Library Week.
Thank you, President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. At this point in time, I would like to ask. Don't want to miss anybody. Linda Kennedy from Albiani, Sally White from Harris, Carrie Lopez from Valley, Julia Bales from Toby Johnson, Bree Bahar from Albiani, and Mr. Gutierrez from Valley to come up, please. There are librarians and administrators from some of our sites.
Very good.
Annually, National Library Week is celebrated throughout the month of April, and libraries host special events to highlight the unique role libraries play in people's lives. This year's theme is Libraries Equal Strong Communities. Celebrations occurring across the nation during National Library Week include National Library Workers' Day and National Bookmobile Day. This evening, we ask the special recognition extended to the Elk Grove Unified School District Libraries during the week of April 7th to 13th, 2019. It is essential to continue our acknowledgement of their valuable contributions and recognize all library workers, including librarians, school support staff, and several others who make library services possible for our students. Libraries are many things to many people and continue to evolve to meet the needs of communities that they serve. The Board of Education is requested to approve resolution number 55 proclaiming April 7th through 13th, 2019 as National School Libraries Week.
I'd like to have a motion for that.
So moved.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Good job. I'd like to call on Rob Pierce for the supportive funding for children with disabilities as proposed by AB 428. Medina, legislation update.
Thank you, President Madison. I'm going to go to my right here for a brief second and pull up a visual for the board. Thank you, President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. I also have Mr. Bob Blattner, who is the district's legislative advocate, who's going to contribute to the conversation as well. So I have a couple of things that I'd like to achieve here tonight, the first of which is a resolution in support of AB 428 Medina, and I'm going to speak to that a little bit. And at the same time, we want to just provide to you a legislative update on another hot topic that's before the district and the state as a whole, and to share some appreciation for a particular member in the assembly. But before I do that, I want to start with AB 428. And Mr. Blattner, you can feel free to join me here. He can add any of his professional insight that I might miss. But with regard to the resolution that's before the board tonight, I want to start by just expressing our sincere appreciation for the governor in his recent budget proposal, and in that the attention and the recognition that the governor gave and focused on students with disabilities. He had a significant proposal that dedicates tremendous ongoing resources to that effort. However, practitioners and special education experts throughout the state feel that there's another proposal that's on the table that better identifies and meets the issues facing school districts with regard to providing special education services. And the slide that I pulled up here on the screen, and it's on your monitors in front of you, I think is a good visual of those issues that school districts throughout the state are facing. This slide represents the contributions by funding source throughout our state that districts are contributing to special education. And this goes back to 2010-11, and then in the last fiscal year with finalized numbers for 2017-18. What this slide shows the board and the community members, that red line represents the contributions that local school districts have been making to fund special education programs throughout the state. That blue line represents the state funding that school districts have received for special education programs, and the green line represents the federal dollars that school districts have received to fund special education programs. There's an obvious trend here, and that trend is that school districts have contributed a significant increase to fund special education programs in the course of this time, where the state and the federal funding has stayed flat. It's hit our budget. It is an encroachment, obviously, to our general fund that goes above and beyond our federal funding and our AB 602 funding from the state for special education services. And I want to be explicitly clear when I talk about this. We do not see the needs of special education students as a challenge in our district. We see those as true needs that these students deserve and that we're rightfully providing. The problem is that the state and the federal government are not living up to that expectation like we are as a school district, and we're having to pull funding out of other sources. So I just want to be clear with everybody on that point. So in sharing that problem with the board, I want to touch on a couple of things before I get to this potential solution that AB 428 provides. So as the board knows, with regard to special education preschool funding, in California, no state funding is provided to school districts to subsidize the estimated $500 million that school districts report spending on special education preschool programs. The California Statewide Special Education Task Force and the Public Policy Institute of California have recommended that the state establish a funding mechanism to support special education preschool programs. AB 428 does that. In terms of equalization, for decades, California's special education funding rates have varied considerably from $480 to $930 and back and forth per pupil for no logical reason or no analysis. The Legislative Analyst's Office calls for a change to this, and AB 428 does that to make special education funding under AB 602 and the funding rates much more equal, and it provides an equalization funding mechanism for all school districts. Funding for students who need extra support. In 20 years since the last major special education finance reform, the percentage of special education students requiring greater support has risen dramatically. During the same time period, the state's dedicated fund to support these low incident students was eliminated. So again, with regard to solutions, AB 428 establishes a funding mechanism to support special education preschool programs by adding preschoolers to the AB 602 funding formula that exists today. AB 428 would address long-standing inequities by equalizing special education funding rates for the 95th percentile over time, making the rates fair throughout the state. And lastly, AB 428 would provide a supplemental grant to support students with the greatest needs, including students on the autism spectrum and students who are blind, deaf, or hard of hearing, and intellectually disabled. So AB 428 was heard last Wednesday at the Assembly Education Committee. It received unanimous bipartisan support coming out of the committee. It's going to be moving forward. We would ask that the board consider adopting this resolution that we will share with the author, that we will share with upcoming committees, and that we can share throughout the legislature, expressing the Elk Grove Unified support of AB 428. Mr. Blattner, you want to add anything to AB 428?
I think President Madison, member of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ludi, Bob Blattner here. I think that Rob said something which has been kind of lost in the discussion, if you have been following it since the governor brought up his proposal, and that is that the governor, Newsom, put money into this for the first time in memory. It seems as if most of the practitioners are looking at AB 428 as the process by which we can fix special education, but a bill quite similar to this made it to Governor Brown last year and was vetoed. There was no money for it. The governor has put forward almost $600 million in earnest money, and we look forward to working with him and really appreciate his sensitivity to the unmet needs of our special needs population. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the board or Ms. Singh Allen?
Yeah, a couple of questions, thank you. On that slide, can you send us a copy of that?
Sure, absolutely.
And then if we can get like an overlay of where we are as it relates to that, that was a state figure, right?
Yeah, that was a statewide figure.
Right, so if you can add maybe Elk Grove on there, just so that it's a good visual for us for the compare and contrast aspect of it. So just in your presentation right now, I just actually went on the bill analysis, and there's a great 16-page analysis for those who want to check it out, but I just want to point out, our name's listed here for support. So I just literally just saw that. So how are we already listed as a supporter?
So we are part of what's called Californians for School Funding Coalition.
Okay.
We are a member of that coalition, and that coalition is a driving force behind this. So they have a tremendous outreach. The resolution that's before the board tonight is created through that coalition. So they're asking all coalition members to join forces with that, which we are part of that.
I mean, I appreciate, I get that part, but to me, it's, the fact that we're already listed seems, and then we're going to approve a resolution for supporting something that, at least in terms of the bill analysis, it lists that we are. So I'm just pointing out, I don't know how one got ahead of the other.
We're listed as part of the
coalition.
coalition group.
Well, I don't see that spelled out, but that's good to know.
There's probably a number of districts,
Yeah.
all of which are probably members of the coalition. So we were called and asked to submit letters of support by the
So what's
coalition.
the coalition name again?
Californians for School Funding Coalition.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
I think for me, just having that information is explained is very helpful as well, as we're looking forward to this, because, being a part of a bigger coalition and they're asking districts to sign on, it's helpful to know that information as well. So thank you for that and the information that you provided. I'll look forward to the slide as well with some of the additions that my colleague had mentioned.
Mr. Perez?
Yes, very good suggestion. I was thinking about that also. You could possibly put the state level, the district level, how that has grown, tremendously.
Yep.
And also, I'm concerned about on the federal, you mentioned that the federal funding has been flat. Is that because school districts throughout the whole United States haven't brought that to the attention of the federal government? Or are school districts like us who participate in the Head Start, but I don't see no growth in Head Start program. And that federal dollars that come to us, yes, I understand there's matching funds or a percentage of funds to help that program, but yet I'm a big supporter of pre-K, and to this day, again, I'm proposing and that the school board step forward and push more for pre-K funding. And so that's the bottom line that I'm concerned about is, yes, at the federal level, I see it flat, but has school districts throughout the whole United States, have they brought that attention and as a coalition and support?
If I may, perhaps Trustee Espinoza might speak to this better from her time with CSBA. This has been, the piñata CSBA has been pounding the federals on for forever. And if you look at it, when IDA was first put in place, there was a promise of 40% federal funding, which has been about 10%, except for that one spike you see, and that was due to CSBA and tireless lobbying on, by all of the board members involved and the special education advocates. So it has not been for lack of effort, and we did have that 1 year, and people are still working like crazy on it. And you're right, it's a promise made is a debt unpaid, and they haven't come through for us.
But I've seen other, many moons ago, maybe 30, 40 years ago, we had a lot of monies, a lot of funding, Head Start programs of federal funding at our, almost at every school. And that, because a certain, well, never mind, that funding has been cut. So, but yet, I blame ourselves because yet we have not even grown in that arena ourselves. The other issue that I'm going to speak about or pull from the consent calendar is the item 24, Head Start preschool application. I think, we're cutting short. We're not requesting more money in that arena. So I want to make sure that, that arena and funding grows.
Mr. Perez, we want to stay with this resolution right now.
Yes, but we're talking about federal dollars, and it's, we need to, okay.
Right, we're just talking about a resolution right now.
All right.
Okay.
I approve this resolution, so moved.
Okay, Ms. Albion.
I appreciate your being here, and I appreciate the information, and I'm very appreciative of the governor's recognition of our needs. So, thank you.
Ms. Sharice Espinoza.
Well, I certainly can't add any more context. These gentlemen did an excellent job. I was going to mention the point, just so everybody was clear, that the smallest contributor to special education funding on that chart is the federal government. And since the creation of IDEA, they've actually promised what is in law is that they would pay 40% of the cost, and that's basically never happened. So there's certainly been a lot of advocacy, but apparently not enough to get us there. I wanted to express my appreciation. Specifically, this change in law would help us with our exploding growth of 3- and 4-year-olds who we want to serve. We are required by law to serve 3- and 4-year-olds in special education, and we're not getting money from the state to do that. And that's just not fair to the rest of our students, right? Because we should get money to serve all of the kids we need to serve. I do want to ask, what are our odds this year compared to last year in the similar measure? There's a lot of good things to spend money on in Sacramento.
My guess is, when asked, I always say 50-50, maybe yes, maybe no. but I think things are set up very well. There were pages and pages of support for this. Last year, as I mentioned, a bill very similar made it to the governor's desk with bipartisan support. I see the same thing. Governor Newsom clearly understands the need and has put earnest money down. And I think the issue then will be if he can embrace an alternative method or even just part of it. So I think we're going to see something.
And that's something that's different this time, is that in the original governor's proposal in January, there are dollars set aside to do the work. His language doesn't really work for most districts, and so we're hoping that he'll be open to a better idea on how to spend dollars he's already identified. This hasn't, we've never had identified dollars before. We've always had the idea, and then at the end, well, we can't fund it even if it's a good idea. So we've actually gotten over what I think is the biggest hurdle, is the dollars have been identified.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Fortina?
I don't have any questions, just a comment, I guess. I'm going to remain optimistic. IDEA was passed 50 years ago, and for 50 years, the federal government has not come through in terms of its commitment to the states. For that same period of time, there's been unequal funding in special ed, and pretty much nothing's been done about it in the last 50 years. That's my experience, so I would probably assume it predates that. So, I'll remain optimistic. Hopefully it'll happen. As you have said, and certainly Rob has said, special ed, while we have a responsibility and we own that responsibility, is a huge encroachment on the general fund, so it takes money out of the programs that we provide for the bulk of our children. So hopefully this year we'll find a better solution, and certainly support the resolution.
Okay, I think all my colleagues covered everything, and I was just going to bring up what Mr. Fortina mentioned about the huge cost in the general fund, in particular this district. I think, Rob, we're around $9 million per year with our with our special ed fund. So we look forward to hopefully better days. So with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt Resolution 54 to support increased funding for special education, equalization, creation of preschool funding mechanism for children with disabilities, and additional resources for students with high-cost disability as proposed. And AB 428, Medina.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second.
Second.
Crystal second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
A positive aye.
It's carried.
So it's unanimous.
Thank you.
We want to talk to you about one more item while we have the time here legislatively and have Mr. Blattner with us. We were going to talk about another bill as well, but it sounds like it got pulled, and there's no need to get into that tonight. But we do want to talk to you about Assembly Bill 760 while we're here. Before I begin, I want to thank Mr. Blattner because of his contacts, because of his resources. I want to thank CSBA, I want to thank CSEA, and a handful of others who have supported this bill, and again, Mr. Cooper's office. The board may recall from earlier this summer and then also in January, Mr. Hoffman and I, in working with you and just talking about budget overall, we had a fairly aggressive and candidly just kind of tired of it platform with regard to funding and legislative vehicles to help us. Special education is clearly one of those. The ongoing pension increases was another. Thankfully, the governor's budget is looking at that. We just talked about a bill to help with special education funding. And the other issue that we've been facing for countless years is the shortfalls with regard to home-to-school transportation and transportation in general. So our transportation funding was frozen in the late 80s. Districts like ours that has continued to grow continue to get that same amount of money with no increase. Others that have declined continue to get more money than they deserve based on their student population. And we've also been given discretion to home-to-school transportation being voluntary. In other words, you can just cut it and you still receive the funding. So a district like ours has been incredibly disadvantaged through this program. Similar to the conversations around when are we going to keep asking or start asking the federal government for spec ed funding, the same question has been asked for transportation. We have asked over and over and over again. Mr. Blattner gave us a platform through staff members at Assemblymember Cooper's office. We had a conversation and it just took off from there. So we do appreciate his support of the issue. We're excited about the prospects of AB 760. It provides a COLA to home-to-school transportation, and it also provides an equalization to home-to-school transportation. It's not the quick fix that we would all love, but with limited resources, it starts layering year after year after year to get us to a position where we finally be funded on an equal level. To give you some perspective right now, we're spending approximately 4 times more in home-to-school transportation than we're receiving from the state. So again, should this pass, and we hope that it does, it doesn't correct everything overnight or in one fiscal year, but over time it will have significant impacts on our district. So I want to turn it over to Mr. Blattner to just talk about a couple of highlights, if I haven't already. He's probably got nothing.
No, you've covered it great. It just, I would like to thank the Elk Grove leadership, all of you, and also Assemblyman Cooper, because there was an effort underway since last fall, apparently, to provide a cost of living adjustment for home to school, which transportation, which has been missing since the LCFF was adopted, 6 years ago. And so there was no COLA, and so a whole bunch of people, including CSBA and CSEA, said, we deserve a COLA again. And that was moving forward, and which is a great thing. Home to school does deserve a COLA, but if you're so underfunded that you're not getting very much money at all to start with, a COLA really doesn't help. And for the districts like Elk Grove, who are so disadvantaged because of this ancient, completely inequitable system, I think at the same time, it's really important to address the actual funding level and starting to equalize that. So then when we put a COLA on it, it will mean something. And so thanks to everyone's leadership and common sense, I think, what AB 760 does, which is Assemblyman Cooper's bill, it provides a COLA, and then every year provides an equal amount toward equalization. And so over time, the inequities that we're struggling under now will slowly be taken care of.
So there's going to be opportunities moving forward. This hasn't taken the steps that the prior bill has yet through the Assembly, but that will be happening. And I know many of you and Ms. Singh-Allen expressed the desire to be involved with the members of the legislature as these bills take formation. Mr. Hoffman and I will be getting you information. They're going to clearly want testimony from at least one board member, if not more. I know Mr. Cooper's office will appreciate that, also from staff. But it's nice to see other people throughout the region and also huge organizations getting on board with the bill. So we would be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the bill, but we will be reaching out to you moving forward to get you more involved at the legislative level with regard to this bill in particular.
Okay, are there any questions, Ms. Charis Espinoza?
Just a quick comment, actually, for context, for my colleagues here and for members of the public. When the local control funding formula was created, the two areas that were omitted because of their complexity and just politically, they were very challenging, were special education and pupil transportation, which are the two areas that we're trying to do something about today. So it's pretty significant. These are two of our biggest obstacles in education funding. So I will support, of course.
Anyone else? Any comment on that?
I think for the benefit of the board, I have a copy of this, but if you can send copies to the board and a BC of the bill.
Sure.
And maybe a link to track it in real time, because I'm sure it'll be changed by the time we get it. So.
Right, it will.
And I will go back to what Ms. Singh Allen talked about a minute ago on AB 428. I just want to express we're having to be very nimble on these pieces, but the last thing that we want to do is get out in front of the school board. And so we want to make sure that we're operating and communicating effectively with you. So whatever means we might be able to do that better and be able to work both at a staff level to get these things, because these are both very proud moments. So I'm hoping that they do come to fruition this year. But the last thing we want to do is get out in front of you and have you not be aware of these things. So I think we can work towards that, and we have some ideas to make that a little cleaner.
Can I follow up, Mr. Madison?
Please.
Just because you brought it up, I was going to bring it up for other items on the floor. I would definitely recommend the formation of like a legislative committee from the board, at least getting 2 members of the board, so that we are proactively involved and can assist where needed, or at least be able to, provide feedback as we move forward. But I do think that it's a committee that we don't have yet, but I do see incredible value, particularly since we're co-sponsoring legislation. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Okay, Rob, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, student expulsion. I want to ask anyone who wishes to address the board in closed session regarding student expulsion recommendation. Okay, seeing none, I ask for a motion to approve the request for student expulsion. Moved in second. Mr. Perez, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we have a few blue cards here. Ms. Lorraine Pryor.
Who says 3?
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be with you again tonight. I do apologize. I have not been as consistent because of the flu, but I am glad to be here because I think that we have a couple of things to discuss. Number one, there seems to be some sort of humor in your district staff when families are concerned about bullying on campuses. So this week I got a complaint, and I made sure to follow the steps that I normally do, responding to emails that I am CC'd on. And it came to my attention because I get a lot of anonymous messages in my Facebook box. They don't want to be they don't want to be identified. But my name came up here at the district office, not only my name, Black Youth Leadership Project in the village, and one of your staff, they would not give me the staff person's name because I would tell you, said they think that they want to get Black Youth Leadership Project in the village involved. She doesn't feel safe. No, the student doesn't feel safe on the campus. Here we go again with Consumnes Oaks High School, and a student who is labeled disabled does not feel safe on the campus. And when her family tried to work with the administration themselves, they were met with a brick wall. So that's why they called us in. And so we will be meeting with them tomorrow, but I was trying to figure out why there seems to be a problem with addressing bullying. And I believe it's because folks are not taking it serious. And I have a problem with that. Number two, I have a problem with the over-discipline of children for childish behavior. If you have programs like PBIS in place, then there should be an escalation of things before we go full commando and take away everything for the end of the year. I don't care if the student cussed on video. Did they cuss at an adult? Was it followed up by some sort of assault? If there wasn't, why are they being given the same punishment, i.e., being removed from all the end of year activities and not being able to walk, which is super punitive for a child who has done everything to get those credits to walk. They're being given the same punishment as someone who commits an egregious act. And I think that we need to relook at how we're doling out punishments and what that could do for a student moving forward. There is a general apathy on a lot of your campuses, and it's because your students don't feel like they belong. And so I feel that I have been a great partner to Elk Grove Unified School District. I have come to many, many meetings. I volunteer my time to attend these meetings, and I would like some sort of reciprocity in that, which means if there's an issue that I'm bringing to you, and I'll wrap up right now. If there's an issue that I'm bringing to you, please don't think of me as an adversary, but as someone who's trying to work with you. Thank you.
Ms. Allegra Taylor.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm just going to pick up where my colleague left off at. So it was disturbing for me to hear a complaint about a child on CO's campus who is also connected to the village via one of our most committed volunteers that's on CO's campus. How is it that you have a grandparent who has volunteered her time to be on campus, who has brought to the attention of the administration that there has been a challenge with her daughter, not once, not twice, but numerous times, only for it to be ignored, and then to have her granddaughter say, "I'm never going back"? If the state of California recognizes bullying as a crime, it's about time that Elk Grove Unified School District starts recognizing it as a crime. And that goes for every school. I don't know what the breakdown is and why it is that you don't grasp the effects of bullying. I think I've shared with you all the long-term effects that bullying has on children. These are things that stay with them throughout their adult life. Young adults are walking around right now today. I know it personally, that's struggling from the bullying that they encountered at the school level. Why don't you teach your staff adverse childhood experiences? As a matter of fact, if any of you are available, we're giving a workshop on it this Saturday. Join us. I'll send the email to the district because it's ridiculous that a parent, a volunteer on campus brings a complaint to the school, nothing's done, the kid is forced to say, "I give up, I'm not going back, I don't feel safe there." And then that's not even taken seriously. In addition to that, you all need to understand that you know your community. Rumors fly. People talk. And information gets back to the village, it gets back to BYLP, it gets back to our communities. You guys don't take us serious. If we find out that a rumor that we're hearing in our community about some one of your employees that we've made a lot of complaints about, a whole lot of complaints about, is being promoted, that will go to show me just how much you all have taken serious our time and our commitment, unpaid volunteers coming and trying to help make a difference in your district. I think you guys need to re-examine some of what it is that you think you're doing, because I don't think you're really grasping the concept of what we're saying and the long-term effects of the things that you don't handle have on our community. Let's have you do something about that, because we're going to keep coming back until you do.
Mr. Dexter Poe.
I'm a law enforcement officer who worked for this district for 12 years. This district dropped the ball in a major way regarding the most recent sex crime by one of your employees that resulted in an arrest. Had you only incorporated the ABC principles, surely a different outcome could have resulted. A, acknowledge you had a problem. B, be accountable and make those in charge responsible for their actions. And C, corrective actions that incorporate necessary change to make sure the potential did not become a reality. Well, in this case it did. Reality, a crime occurred due to lack of action. And I put that blame on your administrator's shoulders. The horror of inappropriate conduct that affects the life of one child is unacceptable and unforgivable. And there are no words to articulate knowing that you had a chance to get in front of this. If this board doesn't know, certainly your Director of Safety and Security knows the truth of the past. It's because proper action was not taken. In this district, there are people who know this to be the truth. Other than an attempt to cover up, will the district acknowledge it's wrong, be accountable in their inaction, oversight, and blind eye management style, then deploy corrective actions so that the very best effort is in place to ensure the manner in which management handled this incident will never, ever happen again. I've been attending these board meetings for just over a year or so. You can tell me what issue or matter is more important than this. Hands down, this is priority number one. I am concerned, extremely concerned, that those failures in the past will exist in the future because this district will not incorporate ABC principles. Last week, a $1.1 million judgment. How many millions in settlements, payouts, and judgments can the district absorb? How many incidents will it take? Based on my personal experiences with this district, my confidence level is very low, so I have an alternate plan. One that does not ask this district to move one finger at this time. Unlike the past, where I expected someone in this building to get it right, I will make my first-hand narrative known to someone else. And I'm positive they will listen. You must get this one right this time. Thank you.
Okay, we have moved to consent agenda. Ms. Albiani.
Call for a motion to approve items 1 through 27 on the consent agenda, minus item number 24.
So moved.
Oh, I'd like to pull 24.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and we will listen to item 24. Mr. Perez, what you...
I just want to express to our board members, my fellow board members and the community, that we need more preschools within our district. We've just passed this resolution that stated that we save, for every dollar you spend, you save 2. And I like to also maybe talk about later on the prioritizing Title I schools, that they should possibly get part of the $600 million that are coming from the AB 428 funding. I'm pretty sure that's going to pass. What I've seen or heard, we have a lot of support for our legislative body and our governor. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and make a motion to approve item 24 on the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and second by Ms. Singal.
Moved by Ms. Singal. Moved by Ms. I got it backwards.
Yeah, who moved it first? Ms. Singallen.
Yes.
Okay, and second by you?
Crystal.
By Crystal. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Bargaining units. How many bargaining units? Okay. Okay, I'll call on Mr. Cerruti, the framework for high-quality instructions.
Thank you, President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. Very much appreciate the opportunity. I'll be joined in just a second by my colleagues, Ms. Larson and Ms. Trinnell. Very much appreciate the opportunity to share with the board the approach that we're taking with respect to high-quality instruction. It could be viewed that within our learning system, we're talking about the blue portion, which is high-quality curriculum and instruction. But the board may recall our view of instruction is that the quality of instruction is at the core of everything that we do. And in fact, it's written into board policies with respect to exclusionary discipline. It's some of the first things that we note is that high-quality instruction is related to the practices that we take in terms of dealing with social, emotional, and academic needs of our kids. It's directly attached to student assessment. Within our classrooms, it's looking at wellness, and then ultimately high-quality instruction directly reaches out to our families and communities, and so it affects all aspects of our learning system. It's built into our district's strategic goals, and it is at the core of how we will ensure that all of our kids are college, career, and life ready, as defined by our graduate profile. And so in terms of the outcomes of the presentation and our discussion this evening is that we want to have the board understand the background and thinking behind our approach. We'll do that in a very common way that we've done it in the past, which is the why, how, and what. You'll receive information about the principles of the framework, and that word principles is key. And then you'll hear about the approach that we've taken to date, because the work has begun and it's been actually going on for some time. And so the work started with a very simple question. Is it possible to bring high quality instruction to scale? And so while it's a simple question to write, it is in no way, shape, or form a simple question to answer. And there's other questions, and I'll share that in just a second, because in order to do that, there's a series of questions that would need to be asked and answered, one of which would be, so what do we mean by high quality? And so that question, which started in my office with just a few folks, and it's not as if the board could ask or the public could ask, so you've never asked that question before? We haven't been dealing with it. We've been dealing and addressing the support of our teachers and our site administrators in supporting teachers for years. But the question also is, are we dealing with it and in trying to do it in the most efficient, effective, and long-term approach? And so districts across the country have spent years and millions of dollars chasing silver bullets for improvement. Programs, training materials, experts, all of those can be good, and there can be good that comes from it, but it tends to result in inequitable and inconsistent and short-lived improvements. And so the answers to improving student learning outcomes, it's a very elusive thing that we are chasing. And so it's an extremely complex process, teaching and learning. One of the things that also makes it complex is most people have experienced extensively what it's like to be in a classroom as a student themselves. So as a result, they've experienced teachers, and if you ask, they can tell you about good teachers or what they perceive as bad teachers. And if we ask the question and just go a bit further and say, so explain why, that's where things begin to actually become a bit more challenging. So, for example, what is high quality instruction? Well, what we need to do is we need to be very explicit in terms of what that is. And oftentimes the answer to that is, well, good teaching, you just know it when you see it. Well, what is it that's being seen? And what is it that's being heard? And what is it that's being done? And there can be the perspective that, well, it's really hard because teaching is really an art. And there's certainly an artistic component to it, but there's also extensive science behind it. And oftentimes, when you really try and drill down in, we do this when we're interviewing teachers and prospective administrators and ask, explicitly define for us what high quality instruction is. The most often used word these days is engaged. Kids are engaged, the teacher is engaging, but we want them to go further, and we want to clearly understand what is it that you see and what is it that you hear and what is it within the concept of instructional design. Richard Elmore is a rather well-known educational professor of educational researcher from Harvard, and I won't quote him, but I will paraphrase. And he's written in several books and in several publications that the challenge or shortcoming of education as a profession is its inability to or unwillingness to define its profession. What he means by that is, what is high quality instruction? And so that's what we've embarked on, and what I'm going to call up Sue, I believe, and Sue's going to begin to explain to you the approach that we're taking, because in my career and my experience, and the bulk of what any of us in education have experienced, is it's been a practice-based or instructional strategy-based approach. So whether it's interactive lecture or guided inquiry or cooperative grouping, it was, here is what's seen as an effective instructional practice. And what we are not doing is that. That's not our approach, even though that's what's been done for a long time. And that's why I want to plant the seed, and Sue and Anna are going to walk you through it in terms of how we're differentiating between practice and principle, because I think the approach that we're taking, and we have been taking, and we will not waver from this unless we aren't seeing the results that we need, but I'm confident that we will, is we're embarking on an ability to begin to have common conversations with common language. So if lawyers or plumbers or electricians or name a profession, if they're sitting around a table and having a conversation about fixing a car or fixing a knee or fixing a legal problem, they tend to use the same language. Educators don't necessarily do that. So educators may refer to learning objectives or learning strategies or learning targets, and if it's asked, so what are the qualities of a high quality learning objective? Somebody may have 3 components, somebody may have 5 components. If you ask how should it be used within the classroom and how should they be constructed, you may get varying answers, and the question can be, but that's okay. Because it depends upon the situation and the construct in the classroom. The approach that we're going to be taking is not to say all teachers should be using this strategy at this time for this purpose. What we're going to be talking about is principles of high quality instruction that should be evident in any instructional strategy. And it's a different model, and it's in a different approach that we're taking, and we're extremely excited about it in terms of the approach that we're taking. Sue and Anna, I need to give them credit. We could not pull this off if we did not have internal expertise. And I've run this model by some of what I consider some of the top educators. A top educator, Dr. Alice Kawazoe, who has worked with us through the California Academic Partnership Program, and who has been integral in dealing with and setting statewide standards for the state of Ohio and a variety of other places. This is an approach that's worth taking, but it takes internal expertise, and Sue and Anna have been working on this. I'm excited to have them share more with you. Sue.
Good evening. Keep it going. So that conversation, I'll take you back for a second. That conversation in Mark's office led to a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of input. But one thing that came quickly from that conversation was our why. And our why is that we truly believe that it is possible to bring high quality instruction to scale in order to have clarity and success for teachers and students. We believe it wholeheartedly that as a unit, as a group, as a district, we can definitely do this. And so that's a good place to start from. And if you're Simon Sinek, you talk about how. So how would we go about doing that? How can we try and understand and articulate and improve outcomes in teaching and learning? And that question led us to a little bit that Mark foreshadowed for you, and that was we knew we had to think differently. So we believe that a different approach to a known body of knowledge is the key for sustained student improvement, which is what we're looking for teacher experiences and expertise to flourish, and also growth of collaborative partnerships among educators focusing on learning and focusing on progress. And so we were inspired very much by this quote from Emerson. If you learn only methods, you'll be tied to your methods. But if you learn principles, you can devise your own methods. Teaching is complex, we know that. One way to understand complexities is to break them into simpler components, to try and understand it, and to understand how the different components and parts influence each other and are also influenced by each other. And so that's what this work is about. So to just have a common understanding of a principle is a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as a foundation for a system of belief or behavior or for a chain of reasoning. Contrasted to a method is just a particular way of doing something, of accomplishing or approaching, and especially in a systematic or an established method. So, examples. First, a fun one. This one's an example from cooking. So, principles of good cooking could include things like using fresh ingredients, knowing how those ingredients react to certain conditions or certain elements, how they react to each other, how they react in exposure to time, those kinds of things. Fundamentals across all kinds of cooking. Methods of cooking, those are easy to think about, right? They can be recipes, they can be a certain way to make a certain kind of dish, and there can be even be methods within a specific, something like raviolis. I've spent some time with a couple of my friends' grandparents who make ravioli, which seems like they would all be the same, but they approach it very, very differently. So their methods are different, but the principles kind of end up being the same around the ravioli of the pasta, and you have something inside and maybe some sauce on top. For here in our work, in our profession, we have an example with regard to continuous improvement methodology. So the principles around continuous improvement methodology could include things like making sure you have reliable data, understanding influencing factors, clarity on where you are right now and where you want to go, and understanding cause and planning techniques and evaluation processes. But there are lots of methods to continuous improvement, as we know. There's TQM, there's Six Sigma, and we use our good old, which I have a picture of up here, our good old DMM. That's our method for continuous improvement. So the idea here is when we observe teaching, what is it that we focus on? Are we observing the execution of a method? And is it possible to observe the underlying principle that's driving the execution of the method? And so that is what led us to this, which is our what, and it's the framework for high quality instruction. It's a colorful little puzzle piece looking kind of thing, and I'm going to take you through the parts of the framework so you can understand exactly what we are talking about. So in the center, we have basically the ways that teachers deliver instruction. Teachers plan the best ways to organize their lessons based on the content that they need to teach, the students who are in front of them. Sometimes it's about the time they have available, the materials, and other factors that affect their ways on delivering instruction. If I will date myself and say that I learned some methods in college around delivering instruction, it was Madeline Hunter's 7-step lesson plan, and that's what we were taught in college. You followed the lesson plan in kind of a direct order, and that was one method in order to deliver instruction. Over the years, the last 10 to 30 years, we've had lots of different ways. We've had explicit direct instruction, or what we call EDI. We've had GRR, if anybody remembers GRR, gradual release of responsibility, just to name a few. The research over time, though, suggests that these 4 things right here, focused or direct instruction, guided instruction, collaborative learning, and independent learning, these 4 principles are in the research as an enduring as an enduring piece that shows what can be effective in terms of delivering instruction. So all of those methods that I talked about that we've encountered over time all have these 4 components in common. So the colorful shapes that look like big fat T's are really ways that teachers plan for students to interact with content. So the yellow on the top is all about setting targets, learning targets, and success criteria. So students need to understand their learning goals that the teacher has planned and communicated to them. They need to be clear about what success looks like when they're working toward their goals, and all of that is communicated to students. Down at the bottom, the orange T, that's all about students and teachers understanding how they're progressing with their learning, formative assessment, practices, and feedback. On the purple, on the right-hand side, active participation, that's just about students doing or saying something, interacting with their learning at the time of learning going on. And the green is around teachers planning ways for students to talk and communicate with each other about their learning content and the processes and the ways that, and also student talk is also about learning ways to interact with one another in a professional classroom environment. So the last part of the framework are what we consider the cornerstones of high quality instruction, and these are the academic enablers. These function to enable the capabilities in students to be successful learners. All of these can be taught to kids, they can be directly instructed, they can be supported, learned, practiced, improved on, and nurtured by lessons and strategies and programs that happen in our classroom culture in order to support the culture and the climate in our classrooms, and are available for teachers to intentionally create the capabilities of students in their classroom. So when we put it all together, these all function together to create the framework for high quality instruction. All parts of the framework are defined, as we said earlier, at the principal level. We are not defining the various methods by which any one of these could be enacted into a classroom. The definitions and the key ideas for each principle communicate a guide toward excellence, but not a roadmap of exactly what to do. And we've always had professional learning on methods. I mean, we have methods classes in college. We've had lots of methods professional learning here in the district, and of course we would continue to do that. The idea here is that we can determine excellence, though, not by our understanding of the details of a variety of methods over time, but we can understand them with the foundational principles of high quality instruction. We can observe and plan and reflect on a variety of methods by way of understanding how they reflect the principles as we define them. And now I'm going to call up, oh, she's here, my colleague and friend Anna. There you go, Miss.
Thank you. Good evening again. So why these aspects of instruction and why not others? As you can see from the information provided, these proven principles span decades and over multiple researchers who provide consistent evidence of these principles with indicators for student success. Why is this lens important? Understanding the principles of high quality instruction provides us a common way to observe, appreciate, understand, and have valuable conversations about teaching and learning. Essentially, we are able to calibrate our understanding and our practice together. So how did we start? We started with our really highly skilled instructional coaches as they work closely around content, instructional practice, and professional learning across schools, working directly with teachers and our administrators. We began the work with our phenomenal elementary and secondary principals to reinforce instructional leadership, calibrate practice at the school site level, and have professional learning conversations about practice, and also apply that in classroom walkthroughs. So part of our next steps is to engage our classroom teacher experts to introduce the concept of principles and methods, as you heard tonight, hear best practices from them and gain their feedback. We also would like to engage with volunteer practitioners to study how to use the framework to learn more about effective teaching and learning practices. With that, we will take your questions at this time.
Okay, Ms. Fortini, you have any questions?
Thank you. My first question is, what are you expecting to see? And over what period of time are we looking at?
So we expect to see improved teaching, which would result in improved student outcomes. We'd expect to see our site administrators having increased abilities to understand and observe high-quality instruction, as well as engage in conversations with teachers and support and develop it, as well as teachers to engage in increasingly meaningful conversations regarding high-quality instruction to develop their individual and collective expertise. And so in terms of a time frame and when we should begin seeing it and when will the results. So we're in the process right now of developing, we're examining the application of the program implementation continuum. The model that you saw, the model that we'll be sharing with the board in the not too distant future regarding our approach to analyzing programs. We'll see whether or not it applies to that, but we have had experience, for example, with discussions in our approach to analyzing improved instructional practice, and an example of that is with our EL program. So it's an example of what we've done, which is we've provided training. There's been pre and post self-assessments that teachers have responded to. And Sue, if I get anything incorrect, by all means, let me know. But that's been also then, we have principals doing walkthroughs. So for example, we'll have a teacher saying, I was at point A, after the training I feel I am at point B. Principals will be doing walkthroughs, and then we can compare their analyses as the principal seeing the same thing, and then we correlate that with student outcomes. We don't necessarily know, it'll be very difficult for us ever to do a direct one-to-one causation, but we definitely look at correlation. So we are seeing if our teachers are saying and perceiving, and our principals are saying they are observing increased classroom quality as it's related to how it's defined through our EL practices, and then we're seeing similar increases with students, it's safe to say we see a relationship. So those are similar strategies that we would be applying here. In terms of when, we began with our administrators and our coaches, and it's out there, and it's what we will be coming back to you with. Is it's been a while to get ourselves to a point of just a strategy of how to talk about a very complex process. And so now that we feel very comfortable with this, we're in year 2 with our secondary folks, in year 1 with elementary. We didn't want to try and do all at once. Our coaches have been experiencing this, Sue or Anna, for how many? For 2 years, and we've had conversations with the EGEA leadership, who are, and I don't want to speak for them. Obviously, any teachers are going to be, they're going to, I shouldn't say any, but most would frown on something that's going to come in and dictate to you exactly what you're doing every minute of every classroom. That's not what this does. We've had some very, very positive conversations around this approach to us being able to engage in meaningful conversations and ultimately support good teaching to turn it into very good and great, and very good teaching to great. That's what we're trying to do. I hope I was clear enough in terms of a response to that. I can't give you an exact date. Yes, everything's going to be fixed, but we will be, now that you've been exposed to this, the next steps we will be coming back to you with is continued information so the board can get a deeper understanding to whatever level you're interested in, but the other will be how we're analyzing and measuring improved practice. That's the next thing we'll be coming to you with.
My whim was for fun, for me. Considering the task, which is a huge task, and considering that everyone is not equal, is there a component for pulling people out for additional training if, in fact, they are not progressing at a rate that you think should be met? They put Sue up there.
Yeah, right. So
They looked at you right away, Sue.
Yeah, I'm used to Mark. He's a good boss. I think I won't answer in terms of teacher evaluation at this point, but I will answer in terms of the way that we view teachers as well as our coaches who are part of the teaching ranks and even in our principals as partners in understanding and growing their understanding at this. Everyone has a starting point for this work. One of the things that's sort of beautiful about it, a little deceptive though, but there's nothing in the framework that seems unfamiliar to people, right? There are all things, if you've been around in education for a long time, there isn't anything that's just the new shiny thing. Wow, I've never heard about having kids talk before, or delivering lessons with a little bit of direct instruction and some guided and some collaborative work. The deal for us is about, going up to that 30,000-foot level and then measuring the practices based on whether or not, and you have some documents that we sent to you, measuring the practices and not evaluating, I'm just saying measuring, knowing where we are, right, against the definition and the key ideas of the principles. So if there's someone doing a practice, does it meet the criteria as far as the definition of the principle and also the key ideas that are in the the very nice colored 3-page document that you guys got? Did that get approach?
Yes.
An answer? Thank you.
Okay, I have a number of other questions. I'm just going to ask one more, though. And that is, in terms of the oversight of the program, what's the responsibility of the assistant superintendents with the principals?
So the way that we've approached this is as it's been developed, and per the expectation of the board, and in particular, in this case, Superintendent Hoffman, and the reorganization to ensure that there's increased and maximized integration of ed services and schools. The way that the design took place is initially it was the three of us who began a conversation, and I'm not saying this to get any credit. That's not the point. It was the initial conversation, and from that, what's happened is that, for example, Anna works directly with the school directors. So this is done. Education services directors are frequently in the room with our principals. Mindy and Craig are directly with these folks in the room when this is taking place. So it is myself, Bindi, Craig, Sue, Anna, school directors working collaboratively and collectively with our principals, and oftentimes engaging in the same activities they are. And so it is a completely integrated approach that we're taking. And while there are many things that are important, research is very, very, very clear. The single thing that impacts student learning more than anything else, by far, is the quality of teaching. That's it. And just to come back to the point very briefly regarding, and your question wasn't necessarily specific to using this as evaluation. The way that this will work is that teachers see this as value added and supportive and building on what they already know. And that's what we've done with our principals. They aren't coming to us without knowledge. We have good teachers. We have lots of very good teachers. We want to continue to improve them. We want to continue to develop them. But you could ask any teacher or you could ask any principal and say, if you think you're the best teacher in your school, or if you ask a principal, think of the best teacher or teachers that you have. And now imagine if you had every teacher like that. How would your school be different? And of course, everybody's bing, right? In terms of everything from student learning to culture to climate, everything. That's what we're trying to do. We want our conversations with our principals to be increasingly meaningful. with our teachers, and it's not to say that they aren't now. But this provides a structure and a context that all of our principals, for example, if you take formative assessment, that's not new to anyone. However, when we sit down and start to say, well, if you think formative assessment, what do you think? And for example, and I will wrap it up or this will go too long, but formative assessment by definition, anything that's not summative could be formative, right? So final exams, summative. CASP exams, CASP testing, summative. Anything other than that could be viewed as formative. We don't define it that way. So we've done work with our teacher leadership team as part of some work that we were doing related to student assessment. And for us, formative assessment means within the act of instruction. Different than common benchmark assessments. You could have 4 common benchmark assessments in 4th grade English language arts, and it's given once a quarter because it's going to give everybody an understanding and they can align with CASP tests. They're all important. But for example, when we start to define what are the characteristics of the key elements in formative assessment, if you ask 10 educators that, I don't care who they are, they're going to give you similar answers, but they're going to be different. And we're trying to get down to where our conversations are so crystal clear and not tying anybody to any formula of how to teach, but it's going to enable us to have far more meaningfully and engaging conversations by which we can improve all of our staff.
2 observations from my seat in watching this work be done. One is the common language. So not unlike Arbinger, one of the strengths of Arbinger is that it gives you a common set of terms and understandings to work from. And this concept of being able to have a common set of definitions by which to talk about instruction, I think is really important. The second piece is the fundamental shift in our principal meetings. So we do a video conference nuts and bolts meeting that takes care of all the stuff that they need to know and need to be able to do. And then their time has been spent in the last year and 2 years of doing deep dive work into this work. And our principals were ready to run back to the school sites and start talking to their teachers about it. We said, stop. This is your learning opportunity for you to take a deep dive into this as we're rolling this piece through. So fundamentally different if you walk into these meetings and see what our principals are doing, engaged with instruction, just fundamentally different than what we've done in the past.
Thank you.
Charis Espinoza.
You covered a lot of my questions about accountability. Can you just flesh out for me again the timeline for evaluation? You covered method a lot, but really my question is, when will you guys come back and determine if there are tweaks that need to be made, and when will the board hear about that?
And when you, just to ensure, when you say evaluation, you mean the evaluation of this versus the evaluation of teachers?
Correct.
And so in terms of a timeline, there is work that's going on right now. So I would expect prior to the beginning, for example, of next year, and again, working with Chris and the board when it seems best in the best possible time to fit this in, whether it's a regular board meeting, workshop, whatever that may be. The next conversation we have around this will be progress to date and the specific areas that we've been focusing on, followed by here's going to be our approach to measure, the approach that we're taking with respect to measuring implementation of this. The next meeting that we have will outline that.
Okay. I'd also be interested in hearing more about our educator input in the development of this framework and also in the implementation plan. And I'm using the term educators intentionally because I think we need to include our paras as well. They're a pretty important part of I think, this model. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Ms. Albiani?
I think she's responding.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Oh, were you just making a comment?
If you can address it now, that'd be great.
okay.
I'd love to hear more about it when you guys do have more detail.
Okay. Just briefly, we engaged with our instructional coaches first as educators. We noticed that there was a need for calibration. Superintendent Hoffman mentioned common language. And so we needed to start there because we wanted to ensure that there wasn't confusion amongst our classroom teachers in discussions, professional learning, facilitation that we were doing. And so we did start there, and they have helped to guide us in how we've designed this work. They also have taken this work to classrooms and worked directly with teachers already, because they were already engaging in conversations around student talk, and they were already engaging in formative assessment work, et cetera. And so they have helped to bring back those feedback discussions, if you will. We actually did engage several of our classroom teachers, hundreds of our classroom teachers, around specifically formative assessment and feedback, and that's where we began the work that we're currently doing around assessment specifically.
Thank you.
And we can get back to you on the others.
Okay, Ms. Albiani.
Thank you very much. This gave me a chance to geek out in my teacher mode, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I've often said I think we have silos of excellence in our district, and this will help spread that out. And so at some point, I'm interested to keep hearing how we're sharing this and how we make it accessible to those at any point. What we're developing, I think, is such incredible work, and we want to make it available to people at their convenience, in their fashion, in the way that works for them. So that would be one of my challenges to you. I think this hits, and I feel very good about this, helping with our equity work to bring educational equity in a way of saying, this is what everybody's going to get, and we will find the way. This is our principle, and this is our method. And so that's really exciting to me with the work I've been doing with educational equity. I think this fits right in. I have had huge assessment questions, so I'm so excited to see us all come together on this and find some clarity. And I think everything we do is for students, but I love the teacher focus, because as a teacher, having a framework, and it's very questioning to, am I doing this right? Am I getting at the right things? And I'm a very checklist kind of person, and so this idea, I think, is a great way to scaffold teachers, just as we scaffold children onto independence. And the collaborative partnerships are key, because I only taught for a short period of time. My master teacher was always teaching me. And so we can always learn from each other. And so thank you very much for your work on this. I think it'll be exciting to see, and Carmine asked when we'll hear more, and the other questions I had. So thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate, and I was remiss in not making sure that I explicitly pointed out the intersection this has with our equity plan, because this work, we do an overlay when we're doing this work, is to make sure that we're looking at it through our equity lenses as we develop this work. So thank you.
Mr. Perez?
How can I say this? Seems like, to me, is this another program like Common Core, another methodology that we're going to implement now?
No. It's
an addition to the Common Core?
No, it's what this is it's not a program. It's a great question, because what this isn't is something new and added on. Because everything here is not new.
Right,
What
exactly.
we're doing, what we are doing is we put a puzzle together, because those pieces, for most teachers, those pieces are out there.
Right.
And teachers individually or collectively in teams, or principals, are putting their puzzles together in a way that makes sense to them. And we're not necessarily saying that that's bad. But what we are saying is, when everybody takes their own puzzle pieces and puts their own puzzle together, and then everybody's getting together to have a common conversation about a given puzzle, but everybody has a different one, that's where the challenges come. So what we did is we identified those, each of those are heavily laden in research that have proven to have a high impact on student learning.
Right.
And we've put some definitions to those.
Right.
And so this is not new. This is building on the existing work, which is substantial, that our teachers and our administrators have had. If we say this is a new thing, we are done.
Exactly, so,
That won't
you know,
work.
how does it overlap with Common Core? And, you know, I'm assuming, you know, it was 40 years, like, I mean, not, probably 20 years since, it was 10 years since you went to school for teacher prep. I would assume that all these skill sets that these students, I mean, these teachers would already have and bringing this into the classroom already. So this is, like you said, it's nothing new, but yet I'm trying to put the puzzle together, see how that's going to work with the achievement gap, the equities issues, the funding issues, and number one is, you know, the outcomes, making Elk Grove Unified School District data more useful for educational improvement. But it looks like, or seems like me, you're developing this process as we go. Well, you don't have it yet, but again, I'm looking, seeing what the state of California is saying about the dashboard that they're pushing on us and those quality of education outcomes. And so how does that all come together? You know, the dashboard and those outcome measures. What's going to be different dealing with the achievement gaps, how those equity issues with the, you know, Department of Education and our little project right here.
So
how they overlap.
So this in part is why we have E4.
Right.
And it
Part of
really
the
is,
discussion,
is
right.
a way for us to look at a really complicated universe, which is what education is. And so the outcome measures, and I appreciate you using that term because they are outcome measures.
Right.
And we need to look, in order for us, the outcome measures, if we're very good at looking at and analyzing the outcome measures. Where our efforts are going, teaching is an output.
Mm-hmm.
Time and energy and planning and resources and money are the inputs. When teachers teach a class, every time a teacher was teaching today, that's a system output. Mm-hmm. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop, and we have developed a model that can assist our new teachers to ensure that they're progressing at the level we want. Experienced teachers who are good will get very good and great, and our great teachers will get even greater. Mm-hmm. And this enables us to have a common language, as Superintendent Hoffman had said, and a common approach. And I will share this with you, and then by all means, Anna and Sue, because they've worked more closely and for a longer period of time, for example, with our coaches who are out in the field. Mm-hmm. There isn't a single educator, myself included. When I sat down and saw this and started seeing the instruction we were getting, I thought to myself, if I had had this when I was a teacher, or if I'd had this when I was a principal, my conversations with my colleagues or my staff would have been so much improved in terms of how we would be able to engage in understanding what each other is doing and the outcomes and the results that we're getting, but also the design strategy. What am I thinking about as I'm designing my lesson? This is going to enable us to do it. So Mr. Perez, we have the dashboard and those outcome data points. Everything we do is going to be measured on that, and those don't change. This is giving us a strategy when we start to report out to the board. Your questions are more in line with, we've seen the outcome data and we get it. Mm-hmm. Why are we getting it? Now we're going to be able to start having conversations around, well, here's how we're analyzing our EL program. Here's how we analyze our special ed program. Here's how we're analyzing high quality instruction, and this is what we're seeing. And what you'll see is we're beginning to develop strategies to say our evaluation of EL, of special ed, of high quality instruction, and overlay those outcomes. And we'll be able to start seeing these data measures. So you will see in the not too distant future the approach that we're taking.
Okay,
I hope I provided
I just read
clarity whatsoever.
just recently that one of our, Smellberg just received the Golden Bell Award, right, for outcomes and all this. So, and we all go to our annual California School Board Association meeting, and we see all these model programs at work and get high praise and high outcomes. I'm concerned that you went to the Midwest, Ohio, and you didn't come to another school district within California who has been very successful on students of color, you know. And so I'm wondering, is there programs within California that are succeeding? I know they are, but what are those those models that are going on in those particular districts in California who have the same type of ethnic makeup, the socioeconomic background of our district, and they're succeeding. And, so I was wondering, why do you go all the way to Idaho,
We didn't
Ohio,
go to
whatever
Ohio
you
for
went to?
anything.
Yeah.
just
So
wanna
you
point
mentioned
out-
that in your presentation. So another thing, so I'm wondering, like, those are things that are going through my mind, So I know, and then again, we have models within our district that are working perfectly with some of our populations and staff and all that. So are we going to change that model?
Well, first, I do want to make sure and make it clear that we didn't go to any other state to get this. There aren't any other states that we've seen, and it's very difficult to find this approach. Most places are taking a practice or methods-based approach versus a principle-based approach. The other thing, just in terms of do we look at best practices and attempt to replicate?
Right.
We do it within district and outside of the district, but I do want to point out that the idea of replicating, it's not just about replicating. What it is, it's about understanding what they did and whether it's an individual teacher's classroom. If we walked into a teacher that was having really a great deal of success, you'd have to look at what are the conditions under which they're having success. Who are those students? Who's those students' parents were,
Right.
how it worked this year versus last year. And so replication is something that's oftentimes talked about and said, if it's working over there, you should do it here. It's actually a dangerous thing to just go take something, and I'm not saying that's what you were saying,
Right.
but it's important for us to look at where school districts like us or schools within our district are having success, and that's what we've done. And so we do that. I just want to point out that we're aware.
Because I looked at CORE. Are you familiar with the CORE?
Yes.
Okay. And so those 5 school districts, they're all coming together, and they already have a plan and an approach and all this, and outcome measures. And so I'm wondering, why could we have joined them? Because,
Yeah, we could
save
have.
money or
We
use that-
could have years ago, but I'll just leave it at.
Okay,
that
so
didn't-
anyway.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, so that.
But we're very aware of them. They are part of my UED group. There's
Right.
there's a number of folks there. I will say, we're outperforming most of those districts over that same time period. So we've learned some things with them along the way, and so they're doing great work. They're not doing it in isolation. We're aware of what they're doing, and we're sharing some of our work that we're doing with them as well.
And Christine Hakito, our Director of Research and Evaluation, is completely connected with the folks, the developers of CORE, and Chris is
great.
Is directly connected with those superintendents as
So
well.
I'm wondering, so are we collaborating? You mentioned we're collaborating, but are we collaborating with people like them that already have that actual model, whatever, that some have been successful and blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, I think we are, Mr. Perez. I think our research department and curriculum is not just working in silos, and we're collaborating with a lot of educational partners around.
Okay. So anyway, to summarize issues, again, I have some more homework for you. I got to pass it down. I was looking at PACE, Stanford University, and how they measure outcomes, making California data more useful for educational improvement. And another one is some other data sets on the subject matter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Crystal?
So thank you for the presentation. There was a lot of information covered, so I want to try to regather my thoughts. So when I see the framework and what would be used in what we call the teaching aspect, I know there's a lot of elements to student learning, and I think of different learning styles of students. And so that might be factored in, and I'm hoping, into this framework when we talk about kinesthetic learning or auditory or visual. My thing is, too, when I put another higher ed hat on, I'm always looking to what are higher education campuses doing as practices as well that will help student learning and outcomes and data, just because some of our students more than likely transition to college later on, and there's that expectation when they're in the classroom of student behaviors. I also put the other cap on, thinking of different theories I know we talked about in the past, but like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how a student comes to school, and if there are certain situations in their home life, then that's going to play out in their ability or their readiness to learn. And are there going to be that aspect for the appropriate identification for the teachers to make sure that students' need is being met? And then I'm also interested in seeing how we're gathering teachers' feedback, but I'm also really interested, we're going to measure student feedback by outcomes, but I also would like to hear from the students themselves as testimony of what they felt really helped them be successful as well from this type of framework or model. So I would hope maybe in the future that can be inclusive when we're coming back with the data, because we always look at numbers, quantity, but I also look at the quality of measuring things. Overall, I see the framework here, there's this puzzle pieces together, but I always go back to just even just my teachings culturally, and having a holistic approach. So trying not to separate out so much, that's naturally thinking and learning is a part of the child's life generally at times. So just trying to think of the whole student and how that this type of framework encompasses the student. And then also, we're talking about high quality instruction, but bringing the parents in as well as the key, feedback too from them, what they felt has been best practices in the past by maybe certain teachers that they really felt helped their students' learning. So I just think of all those factors and assets when we're looking at this type of framework.
And just very briefly, if that's why this is so critical, bear with me for 1 second, I'll get there fast. Because everybody's seen it 1,000 times before, but it's why that is so important, because this doesn't just live in the blue bubble. And those, in that framework, those 4 corners, those academic enablers, those address exactly, that's the student readiness. That's ensuring that our teachers are aware of what our kids are coming with, both from home, from their community environment. It recognizes cultural difference. That's the whole piece of this. And part of it is breaking those pieces apart, but it's also understanding, everybody has to understand how it intersects. So I can assure you that your thinking is very similar in direct alignment with ours. Thank you.
Hello, excellent presentation. A lot of my questions have been answered. A couple of questions, let's see. Arbinger work, outward mindset, seeing the humanity in all. I see there'll be a nexus, because the goal is to get all of our staff trained. How many of those that have gone through this have gone through Arbinger? And I ask that because I feel if you're going to be extending your mindset to that next level in teaching, I see the training being critical component to that, particularly as it relates to getting a better understanding of our student population.
We agree completely. It goes without saying that it's, Chris says all the time, and he's right, it's people before process, and it's mindset before practice and action, right? And so everyone that we have been talking about up to date that we've been initially working with, so our principal group and our coaches have all gone through Arbinger.
Okay.
And we talk about the connection between the two.
Yeah.
They aren't in isolation. And we were very deliberate in why we did it in the manner that we did it.
Great, that's great to hear. I definitely see some themes with project-based learning. See a lot of that
Very
in
much
here,
so.
and I'm glad that you reminded us back about E4. I see this as a solid expansion of the work that we're doing. I think this is great. It'll come down, I imagine, at some point, not tonight. The more people who want to use this, the cost, the resources, what do we have in terms of adequately supporting this? Because that will be an issue, maybe not today, but at some point. So.
And it currently is, and it's part of our plan for professional development for next year. And Anna's working and has done work to analyze our needs, and this is part of that and within the budget that we have.
Great.
part of that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Great presentation. That's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Just a few comments that I had. I always get concerned, too. I think we work hard with a lot of our programs and try to get them off the floor. The concern is the college, the undergraduate preparation for future teachers is always a concern to me, and I'm sure you folks, too. While this program is great, but they come in, and a lot of them they're not there. And I just wonder with Sac State, if this program goes successfully, can it be shared with some of the higher institutions that I don't know where a lot of our teachers are coming from. I assume Sac State. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah. Anna could speak directly to that. I mean, we have wonderful partnerships and close connections with our credentialing our institutions in the area. And are they all doing exactly what they need to do to adequately prepare all of our teachers? I'm not sure anything adequately prepares anybody until you get on the job, right?
Sure.
But nonetheless, I will say this, and I'll turn it over to Anna because she has some very specific information. Any program in the country would benefit from this, and I sound like I'm being boastful, but this is not necessarily the approach that they are all taking, so it could be, so why are we? We're on to something, in my opinion, here, but Anna can talk specifically.
Let me just say this, that it's something that Dr. Crystal Sheep brought up a little bit. I just want to carry on. It's a multicultural part of teaching today. When we look at 20 years ago, or even back when I was a kid, in some respect, we still teach the same a little bit with looking at our multicultural makeup today. That's what really concerns me. How do we reach these kids in this type of environment we're living in today? I guess that's what I just kind of want to clarify a little bit, because let's face it, I mean, we have educators that have never sat beside a minority, and they have no understanding at all. You can get the book knowledge, don't get me wrong, in the curriculum part of it. But when we talk about the overall framework of a high instructions, to me, that goes right along with it.
I'll just speak briefly to the first part, as was mentioned around our IHEs, or Institutes of Higher Education. As a provider of the BITSA program, or a beginning teacher support and assessment program, we actually have and have led, my department has led a Greater Sacramento-wide collaborative where all of the Institutes of Higher Education meet with representatives from all school districts in our area. And this was really started when Common Core was first coming out, and needing to have discussions with our IHEs about what we're expected to do in the classrooms and how that then funnels up to that college and career readiness. And so we started there, and we've progressed in having conversations like this. I don't believe that we've presented this framework literally by the visual, but conversations are ingrained and infused in the conversations that we have with our IHEs. If I could add to that, in that center bubble of E4, we talk about college and career readiness and life readiness. And with the foundation of our graduate profile, there is a need from employers, for example, who have said, we need people who are critical thinkers, people who can collaborate and communicate. And the way to do that is to not just have them automatically somehow through osmosis walk away from our classrooms in senior year saying, I now got this, but starting from the very beginning in early ages with our students, how do we get them to understand quality conversation between each other? And that is infused in student talk. How do we make that an equitable process so that all of our students' voices are heard, not just the few who continuously raise their hand? Again, going to equity. So all of these principles have that underlying factor of how we honor all of our student voices, the culture that they bring, and the perspective that they bring, and we find ways for building high expectations and also having our students understand those expectations through learning targets and success criteria, not having it be a gotcha, but having them involved in the process of learning and understanding what is expected. Keeping students actively participating and not letting go when we have a student who might be wanting to put his or her head down, but honoring them in the sense of we care and we want them to be engaged in their learning. So how can we make practices that do that and keep them engaged in the classroom? How do we engage students in formative assessment and feedback in that they understand what their learning progressions are and that they're not just being told? So all of these elements honor all of those pieces which go to the heart of a lot of what you're mentioning.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of follow up that a little bit. You know, it's always amazing to me. The school's credit union have the Teachers of the Month. We see it on TV. I'm sure some of you folks see it. And they interview the kids along with Dr. Crystal when she was talking about the students. And I listened to the students about this Teacher of the Month, and just about all of them, they have this free fill from this teacher of listening, giving them an opportunity to learn and have cross discussions. So you learn a lot from the kids as well on some of the teachers that are so fantastic throughout the region here. And plus in our district, I think as you alluded to, we've got some fantastic teachers here. Some of them are maybe missing that element of understanding about the kids. So I'm excited about the program. Just a brief recap, my colleagues, the evaluation part of it, of this program as we move forward, the timeline, you talked about that. The educational equity part of it fits in, and collaborative, and we talked about that too. And the various challenges of various students in our district, because they come from all backgrounds and all different challenges. Not all students are going to be perfect, but they have a tremendous amount of ability, how we bring it out there. So I appreciate the report, and we look forward as we move forward to keep us updated on it.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And with that, I have one, that Ms. Allegra Taylor wanted to comment on this presentation.
Thank you, sir. You actually touched on what I wanted to question, and so did Mr. Perez.
Okay.
But I do want to make one other comment. I'm glad that they're looking at solutions and ways to engage and better aid our kids in learning. I am hoping that when they did have that gathering of people, that it did include African Americans, because everybody learns differently. And I'm glad that you guys brought up the cultural piece, because it's important. The other concern that I have is, you know, I'm glad that you're implementing this program, but you're implementing programs, and you haven't even finished implementing PBIS. What step are we on at PBIS in Elk Grove Unified School District? Can we get PBIS completely implemented in this school district so that we can, you know, you're grasping for other things. You haven't even completed one task. So I don't understand. I'm a little bit confused. If it's going to take you years to implement PBIS, why are we looking at something else to implement? Why can't we finish one task at a time and then add to that? So I don't understand. I just don't understand why it's taken so long to implement PBIS, and here we are with another program. So I'm hoping you guys have a plan of how all these pieces to these puzzles are going to fit together, and I'm hoping that we're going to have all these puzzles somehow coordinate together somehow. That's about all I had to say. Thank you, too, for bringing that up on the board. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, board members' report and superintendent's report.
Haven't had any meetings?
No meetings? Okay.
No committee meetings.
All righty. Mr. Hoffman?
I did have just one update for the board. So we have implemented the anonymous reporting system, and we've actually had 20 reports as of the start of the meeting. 19 of the 20 have already been investigated and closed out. One of them we just came up, so hasn't been closed out. So seems to be clicking along. Well, it wasn't an overwhelming just, hey, let's try something new, which we were a little bit afraid of. But we have gotten a couple of them have been very serious situations that a kid has let us know was going on with another kid, and we were able to get the resources in place and take care of it. So
this is
early
directed
indicators.
towards bullying, our new program on
Well,
that.
well, it's been a wide variety of topics.
Okay.
Wide variety of topics.
Good. Anyone else?
Wait a minute,
this is committee meetings now.
Not on committee meetings, I have items on the floor.
Okay, we'll get to that. Any committee meetings? Okay. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead. Other items on the floor?
Yes, sir.
Sing Allen?
A few things, update on. I attended a CalTurn conference with the superintendent and a number of others, just for a small portion on sharing how Arbinger is working and the implementation, sort of the mindset of all of that. We agreed, Elk Grove Education Association hosted it at their office, and I don't know, maybe 75 to 100 people attended that, so that they can take that training back to their requisite school districts as well. So
Bobby, you said CalTurn?
CalTurn, which stands for California Teacher Union Reform Network.
Who's the presenter there? Because I've gone to them in the past too. Who do they have now?
Shannon is the head, and her last name slips my mind. That's a great question.
Shannon Brown's the executive director of CalTurn, but we were the presenters.
We were the presenters.
Elk Grove Unified we did the presentation.
With the Arbinger?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the Arbinger training. So that was great to showcase all of our good work with a wider audience. Also attended a CSBA lobby day with my colleagues, Ms. Albiani and Ms. Chaitis Espinosa, on some of the bills that we discussed earlier today, and a whole bunch of others. So great representation. It was the largest one that they've had this year. Almost 300 attendees from statewide, so that was great to see. Third item, I was going to check on how the anonymous reporting is going, so thank you for that report, Mr. Hoffman. My colleagues, my female colleagues, are hosting a Women's Day event on Monday in collaboration, really at the leadership of Councilwoman Stephanie Wynn on Monday. And we are recognizing women in Elk Grove from all walks of life that have been excellent contributors to our community. So that's next week. It's just a small reception in honor of Women's Month, Women's History Month, from 5:30 to, I believe, 7 or 7:30? 7:30, and that's at the City Hall Chambers. Small reception there, and we're going to be recognizing, I think our list is over 30 at this point, which is great, including our very own Ms. Zanthi Pinkerton, and a number of others will be recognized as well.
What time is that, Ms.?
It starts at 5:30. And Dr. Martinez O'Leary, Ms. Albiani, and Ms. Chaitis Espinosa, we're all co-hosting, but really, Councilwoman Stephanie Wynn, this is really her event, and we're helping to facilitate that and make it successful. And I think that is all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Martinez-O'Leary? Okay. Mr. Perez?
I say
no. No? No. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Singh Allen, for covering Legislative Action Day and the Women's Recognition event that we're co-hosting next week. I did want to follow up on the issue of the process for approval of board sponsorship of legislation. I think I understand kind of how it happened, thanks to Mr. Pierce and Mr. Hoffman giving me a little bit of background. I still would like us to do one of two things, or maybe both, but what I'm thinking would be helpful is in our existing board policy, which I apologize I didn't pull it up, but I know that one of them is specific to the process for review and approval of resolutions. I think it would help to have an amendment there that spells out the process for review and approval of legislation, because it follows a similar process. So whether that be The same process, which I think is the board president in conjunction with the superintendent decide what to bring to the board, whether it's that or the creation of a new subcommittee. I just would like to formalize that process, so I guess I'm asking Mr. Chair if that item can come back to the board.
Yeah, it can. I would agree, particularly with the subcommittee. I think Ms. Singh Allen brought that up. I think that's a direction we should head in.
Okay.
And in that way, we would have a subcommittee with legislature, what's going on, and keep us updated all the time.
Mhm.
That would be my recommendation, if the floor has any other comments on that.
So can we give board direction that a
Form the
proposal
committee
come
and-
back, or?
Yeah, so what is the next step? Do we agree that we would like to have a legislative committee?
Yes.
And then also, but as part of the work, Ms. Chaitis Espinosa, are you asking that the amendment be part of the ledge committee, or that's just separate?
Well, I guess you're a little bit ahead.
Yeah, that's part of the
I
legislative.
guess you're a little bit ahead of where I am. You know, if it's the will of the board to go ahead and form a ledge committee now, then sure, that's an ideal group to be tasked with the development of this amendment.
I think so. But that's okay with everybody.
And we can also do it in the opposite order.
Well, tell you the truth, I have always been a committee of one doing this, but I support this 100%. And also, I have a folder of other schools' policies on this particular subject matter, resolutions within, like Sac City has theirs and a variety of other districts.
All right, we're in a good place then.
Yeah.
So, do folks want to pursue the development of a ledge committee first, the amendment of the board policy first, or both?
Do them together?
I would think the ledge committee could bring us a board policy.
Yeah, I think we should go to the committee first.
Okay, that's what I'm hearing.
Form that, okay?
So do you need?
Well, you're gonna write it up?
Are there people interested in the
Who,
committee?
yeah, I guess I would ask, who? would
I'm
be-
definitely interested.
Yeah, Ms. Singh Allen,
I guess me.
Perez,
Perez, and you have the Sheriff Espinoza. So, and we only need, what, 2?
We can do 3. Can't we do 3
One
for a
and
board
three?
subcommittee?
Okay.
It's not a quorum, so.
Yeah.
As long as it's not a quorum.
We have 3.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine, so we'll have the 3. Okay? All right.
Great. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
I have,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Mr.
a couple things. A number of board meetings ago, I brought up the subject of reinstating regional meetings, and my recollection was that pretty much everybody said, yeah, that was a good idea, and so where are we with reestablishing regional meetings?
I just had that conversation with Karen today as part of my one-on-one, and just trying to figure out a structure to be able to build it in. And I'll in my next one-on-one, with Mr. Madison, I'll walk through it. One of the thought processes is to be able to build upon existing meeting time. So
Yes.
maybe being able to do maybe we'll call them a special meeting versus a regular meeting, and be able to do a 2 o'clock in the afternoon start of the meeting for our site administrators to be able to come in and to be part of the regional piece. On those days, we can come together, still do a closed session, and then probably come together and only do a consent agenda, because there'll still be business things that need to get done, but we could do them within, my idea would be to do them within existing days so we can take care of business, but doing it as a special will allow us to focus on better. But again, that's my initial piece, and making sure that worked. But I want to have my next conversation with Mr. Madison. I'll work through some of the details before I brought it back to the whole board.
Okay, good.
All right.
We're on track with it.
I like
We're
to
on
see
track
those,
with it.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Mr. Fortuna still.
Yeah, I want to,
well, I want to speak regarding these regional meetings before it goes to another subject matter.
Okay, what is it?
Yeah, I like was it Dr. Ladd, right? When he had those meetings, but he also had the data sets of those regional regions. So I like
All the data you want, Mr. Perez.
Okay, so I know they're probably within the data research unit. So those are very good
Pal,
examples.
there's no data that you don't have that was in any of those regional
No.
meetings. We got it for you, pal. I guarantee it. We
But
got it.
like, once we do these regional meetings, it'd be nice if they do the same process of Dr. Ladd's reports.
Stop doing them.
Excuse me. I emphatically would not even participate in a regional meeting if it followed the way in which Dr. Ladd had them. That's why we disbanded them, because they were useless, because we were not allowed to have free conversations with the administrators. Administrators were not at liberty to discuss important items. So, no. If we're going to have regional meetings, they're going to be in a format in which people are free to discuss what their challenges are,
I
what
agree.
their approaches are, and how we can help. But to follow the format we had, no way.
You disagree with having the data sets or just his process?
I think, let me clarify. When we have the meetings, and I'll discuss it with the superintendent, whatever that particular subject matter that the educators are coming forward with, we will have some data on that and talk about it, okay? That's what you're referring to.
Because, there's equity issues out there, there's achievement gap issues out there, and so it'd be very important issues that geographical districts have, and that we should share, and because when we prioritize fundings, they have a more, be enlightened on these issues regionally.
What we want.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right, what we want in those meetings is to be productive. We're not going to go all over the board. They will be structured for that particular meeting. You understand that? Okay, move forward. Go ahead.
My second item, most of us attend school functions after school, at night, on weekends. And we do so because we see the value in those. And we get acknowledged for that when we attend those things, and people say thank you, and sometimes we get the acknowledgments here. But I want to bring up something because it's the first time that I've received a written thank you. And Chet discussed that a couple of weeks ago, he and I had attended the Valley High School BSU event, their Spotlight on Excellence, and I received a written thank you from the BSU.
I did.
And that really impressed me that the time was taken to do a written thank you.
That came from Valley High School.
And that came from Valley High School BSU. Thank you.
I've gotten others as well, just to recognize some of the other schools, but I think it is that extra touch. I've even gotten classrooms send little notes that I save as a reminder of why I'm here, so.
That's right.
It is nice when you get that extra.
It is. And lastly, just to go on that with Valley High School, I just want to congratulate the Valley High School staff for the wonderful turnout at their open house last week. I was so impressed to see the amount of Jackman students at that school that was in the bleachers in the gym there, and they were all from Samuel Jackman Middle School, and I was so impressed to see the amount of parents there. So I just want to convey a good job by the staff at Valley High School and along with Jackman High School, how they shared that day and with the barbecues and the celebration there. It was very good. Well done. Thank you. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 20:35 hours.